Well, what's up, YouTubers? It's Nick here with Real Talk with Nick, and I have a very special guest here today. This is my friend Alex. We ordained in Thailand together at the IDOP International Dhammakaya Ordination Program together, where we became Buddhist monks. That was just a couple months ago, and he's from Singapore. And if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, Alex Butt from Singapore. Like what Nick says, about 6 months ago, was together with him in the ordination. I work as an entrepreneur. I own two companies. One is a consulting and one is a franchise company. Had worked my entire life for large companies like Microsoft, HP. At the age of 55, decided that a lot of things that I did was very good, but starting to feel less purposeful. And that led me eventually to a journey to discover more about myself, and ended up in Bangkok, Dhammakaya, to ordain as a monk for 45 days, and that's where I met Nick.
Yeah, and now Alex is here. We're here in Irvine, and he's here to chat with us. But I think this is where I relate mostly with Alex, where we're both entrepreneurs. In the physical world, Alex is successful to the standards of society now, where he has his own business, he has his own career, he has going in this path, but something inside was kind of lacking or missing or needed more attention, and that's what we kind of want to explore today, of how Buddhism, what has it taught you? What has being a monk, how has the Dhammakaya Temple, the Dhammakaya meditation, the middle way approach, how has that shifted your life? But first off, what's your experience of ordaining as a monk? What was that like for you?
It was unexpected. It was, in a way, unexpected that it's simpler than I thought it would have been. And again, on the other hand, it's more difficult than I expected. The difficulty is learning a lot of the procedural, the chants, the language, and just understanding why we have to do certain things certain way. The simplicity part is actually the lifestyle. The simplicity of waking up in the morning and doing just the same thing every day and repeatedly doing it. And that's the experience I have. One of the most unexpected thing that I thought I would learn is not that I would learn a lot of more things in there, but I found out that the most difficult part was to unlearn the things that I had going in, and the struggle to have to literally empty it before I can absorb new things was the most difficult struggle I had going in there. Not the physical part, not everything else, but the internal part, to take it out and chuck it away and say, let's look at things differently. Wow. That was the most difficult part.
Yeah. So from an outsider perspective, it doesn't make sense, where it looks like you have everything, it's successful, things are going, what's lacking? Like, why would you need this?
It's a good question. I think the question itself was the reason, the unknown to the answer to the question is the reason why I went there. It's like not knowing what I don't know, where you go find it. If I know what I was going to pursue and ordination will get me, I would have already known. But I didn't know what I have not known yet in my life. And I heard from someone that when you go to be a monk, you may find something. And I took a chance to decide to do it, because I wasn't looking for something per se. But what came out, well, I was looking for something, honestly. I was looking for where my mom went after she died. And so I couldn't find an answer, and they said, maybe when you meditate more, you might know the answer. So I went to meditate, and eventually they said, you want to meditate even more? Go be a monk, because you meditate every day. I said, really? Is that a faster way, shortcut? He said, yeah. So I went there thinking that I could meditate and find out more about what happens after death, after life, and finding where my mom went. The interesting thing is, I left the place not finding the answer, where she went, but I found a lot of me inside, how I should lead my life differently, what I've been doing wrong, what are the pursuit of happiness that was in my own definition that is now being redefined.
What was your definition of success before?
Well, achieving goals that I set for myself, and when you achieve those goals, it's success. And some of these goals could be career goals, monetary goals, bigger house, bigger car, and another hobby, anything that money could buy, essentially.
Yeah, so you're a businessman.
Of
Where goals,
course.
objectives, let's reach it, productivity, when I get there, success.
Yeah, I mean, how else can you
And repeat
not
the formula.
make? Yeah, that's the formula. That's why I'm in the franchise business. You cookie cut everything, and you keep repeating it, and that's what success is about. But yet, each time I got to something bigger than before, I want another one. I want something else, which means that what I achieve is not enough. And
Right.
so, when is it enough? And I couldn't answer the question. And what I learned in this meditation and ordination part is, when it's emptiness actually has a lot of substance in the emptiness,
Right.
versus something that's full, which is what I'm achieving, my bucket, my money, my bank account. Actually, interesting, there's more empty than having no thoughts and no desire and no material craving for material things. So it sounds strange, but I end up basically discovering a journey that I have to reverse my learning logic, my method of getting happiness, my judgment. When you look at something that's wrong, we create a judgment. We want to right the wrong based on our judgment, what is right or wrong. And once we
Right.
right the wrong, we think we got something.
Right.
But right or wrong is not based on my judgment. It should be based on some kind of bigger law, bigger scheme of things.
Yeah. So then now you're finding that the way to happiness is really emptying yourself.
Yeah. And I learned something, that emptiness and nothingness are two different things. Nothingness is when you have no content. Emptiness is when you have no connection, ego, with the something.
Wow.
So for example, if I'm moving from San Diego to LA, is the move a good move or bad move? It depends who's affiliated to it. Is inconvenience someone or make someone more convenient? That in itself is association, is attachment to that event.
Right.
But the event is by itself, right or wrong, should be empty if you don't put an ego to it. It's better for me, worse for you. Better for him, worse for me.
Yeah.
And so that to me is how now I look at everything that's empty as something that I disassociate my ego and my emotion from it.
Right.
And then my mind becomes clearer when I look at it.
Wow.
Instead of saying, I don't want to do it, I don't want money, I don't want this. When you don't want things, it's nothing.
Right.
But you want something, but without association and being deeply attached to it, that's clarity. That's emptiness with clarity.
Yeah, and this is Buddhism 101, where I talk to my clients about it too. It's just, don't make a story. There's no details to it. Sometimes it's just the reality of what is. And that's what Buddhism always teaches you, of learn how to separate your thoughts with your feelings, with all that stuff, and just seeing things for what they are.
That's the hardest thing to do for me. Because how could you look at something and not make an opinion, have a have a have an opinion on it,
Right.
and that was difficult for me.
How do you get there? How do you train yourself not to?
At first, it's just purely stop talking about it. Doesn't mean I did not think about it.
Right.
But by not talking about it, you don't verbalize it, and hence it became less real. But it's still happening in the mind. And so now I got to fix what's happening inside the conversation. And the way I did it was through meditation.
Yeah.
When the mind started to get slower and stands to a level of stop thinking, that thought process stopped. And so those are two steps approach. One, don't talk about it, don't engage in
Beautiful.
conversation, and stop the thinking process. And somehow, somewhere, when your mind is at a standstill, things come up, answers come up. Different ways to answer, unexpected. You got to let go before you get it.
Yes. Yeah. And I think this is what meditation really is putting a stop or detaching from your five senses. You get out from your hearing, the taste, the sight. Again, those five senses, that's all we know. We use those five senses to experience and connect to the world. So it gives us a filter to the world. But then in Buddhism, it's like, no, put down all those filters, close those five senses, and connect to something deeper. And I couldn't understand this before when they're like, just meditate, and then the answers will come. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, someone says something, you see a picture, you see an image, I didn't understand that. Versus, no, when you tune out the filters of judgment, when you show up in your own skin, you sit in that awareness, then knowledge, in Buddhism we call it wisdom, just arises out of that empty space.
It's like, Nick, to me, it's like a glass of water, and if I keep stirring it, the sediment at the bottom keeps it a bit cloudy,
Right.
hard to see through, and that's the way the mind is. There's always something happening, it's not clear.
Right.
And when the mind is still, it's like putting a glass of water untouched on the table for a while, and the sediments go down, and the minds become clear. The water is clearer.
Right.
That's what meditation is for me, to
Beautiful.
let the sediment goes down.
Yeah, so for anyone out there struggling with issues when they come into me for therapy, that's it. Start there. When you are having an issue, instead of shaking it up, discussing it, just put it down. Put it down and let all the substance, let it sink, and then you can see it clearly. Then you know how to move on to that next step. Why do you think people suffer so much?
I think the word suffering is kind of, Buddhism, it means, for me, it means desire. I want something and I don't get it. It leads to disappointment. So
Right.
that's suffering. I'm stuck in a deep situation, bad situation, and I think about what it was when it was better. That comparison
Yeah.
is suffering. In this world, there's always competition. When I'm competing against someone who is better, that difference, that variance,
Right.
is suffering. And because we are in pursuit of something that we haven't got, or we imagine we want to be,
Right.
it creates a delta, a difference. And that, to a businessman, is driving for aspiration. That what drives us. But in pure happiness, that delta creates unhappiness, create
Right.
dissatisfaction, and that's suffering.
Yeah.
And I think because we're trained to want more things, set goals that beyond what we could, compare with others, benchmark, it creates suffering.
Yeah.
If we are clear what makes us happy, what makes us content with who we are, what we are, I think that gap is smaller. I'm not sure whether we'll ever have zero suffering, but
Right.
we'll have less comparison and less suffering.
Right. And when you talk about the difference and the delta, for me, I just see it as the more disconnected you are, or the more separate you are from present moment. This is present moment, here in the now, like how Eckhart Tolle talks about power of now. And then the more you are comparing it or stuck to the past or to the future, the bigger the gap, the more the suffering. Versus, yes, you can make, you're not just here just doing kumbaya, but you make decisions in this moment. But get back to present moment and stay here, operate in the now. Then you can
Yeah.
move forward.
The other thing I thought about, Nick, is sometimes when things are not working out for me, I will do whatever to take control. And by taking control, I started to try to influence things around me to go in my direction.
Right.
And you know how hard it is to take control of everything. And every
Right.
time I do that, it leads to anxiety, stress, and those are suffering. And sometimes if you see through and you might just let it go, it's better control than grabbing it.
Right.
And by being able to let go and see and let things happen, be mindful. Don't be stupid about it, but be mindful, be watchful about how it's going. That might get in a direction that is meant to be and may not be my direction I want it to be,
Right.
but it's another direction that will work. That helps me keep my mind clear.
Yeah. How has the Dhammakaya Temple, this ordination program with IDOP, changed your life?
Tremendously. I did it in 2017, and it provides first a clarity of how I need to plot my life the year ahead, and I had a few things I changed. One is I relook at all my the things I own, and I'm going to reduce clutter in my life, and that clutter could be relationship, people that I used to mix around with that really didn't help me with my life.
You're gone.
So I stopped meeting them. I haven't met them since I came back.
Wow.
And they've been texting me, saying, "Hey, Alex, come on here." Those are not the people I want to keep conversation with. Not that they're bad people, it just doesn't help me. Clutter in my life could be physical things in my home that have been there with me for the last 5 years since my previous job.
Right.
I haven't unpacked those boxes yet.
Same.
Why do I keep them?
Same.
And so I'm going to remove those things in the course. It's not easy, right?
Yeah.
And some parts of my business life, I have overcomplicate things. I get investment in this thing and that thing. I'm starting to divest some of these things and focus on areas that I think make direct sense to me. Partnership in my business that had been holding on thin thread, and I'm giving it away. I'm letting it go, and with that partnership going away, I think it's freeing both parties to go pursue their own passion. So it changed a lot of me socially, at least within the family. They told me that I am a much more easier person to talk to. I use words that are not as harsh as it used to be. I'm more mindful about certain things that I cannot control. Instead of jumping and be angry and shouting about it, I just stay in the present moment and enjoy it, because in a moment it'll be past, and let it go.
Right.
So the mindfulness part helped me to know that things are impermanent, and that helped me a lot. The final one that personally for me it helped me is I'm able to write my thoughts down into a book that I'm about to publish, and I wish that by writing it down, not only is it therapeutic for me, but hopefully people get to see the change in me from the mind of a CEO and a moment of the mind as a monk, and how that chemistry came out to be who I am today.
Awesome. And I'm going to put the link down below too once the book is out, and you guys make sure to grab a copy. For me, how Buddhism and the temple, everything has changed my life is really, now I know how to live. Now I know where I'm going. Now I have a map. It's kind of like you are born and then it's like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know the purpose of it. I don't know how to live. And now I understand spiritual laws. Now I understand that we live in two different worlds. One is a physical world and it has its own laws. And then we also live in a spiritual world, a soul world, and it has its own laws, whether that's law of karma, regarding habits, regarding giving, regarding action and opposite reaction. All these different things I didn't even know that existed, but yet I'm suffering the consequences of those laws when I break them. And I'm like, I don't know what they are. But once I did understand them, I'm like, now I know how to live like a good person. I just follow the 5 precepts. Now I know that I need to meditate because when I go into a place of stillness, then I know how to make my next move with more clarity and more precision and more cleanliness. And it's interesting because a lot of people will say like, "Why I don't have time to meditate. It's wasting time." I don't have that time, but it seems like for you, I don't know, but it seems like by making that time to meditate, to get still, you're actually making more space in your life, improving your life, your relationships, your business, your everything, and the productivity seems better. I don't know if you can speak on that.
Yeah, I like what you say. If you look at a day in my life, in a person's life, you have 24 hours. I usually, like while waiting for Nick earlier to pick me up, I usually will fill up the gap of that 20 minutes by picking up something on my phone, picking up a book to read, a novel that takes my mind away to another faraway place. Now, that time is so precious to spend a relationship with the mind. And so actually before you came, I sat down and meditated for like 10 minutes. And just having the mind to be still was so calming. I woke up at 5 this morning, and the first thing I wanted to do, just like every other morning, is to sit down and meditate. It's the best time of the day to meditate, and once you set the day right, the rest of the day tend to be better. And so whenever I have time, I ask myself, what's the best use of the time? Is it for my mind, myself, my spirit, or is it for my body, my physical part? And I have 2 parts in me right now. I now got the physical part of me leaves behind when I die. The spirit, the mind part, where we don't spend a lot of time nurturing and spending relationship with. That part, if I spend more time with, when it leaves to the next part of my life, that's the part that has the merit and the value that was created by spending time. So now I look at my life and priority quite differently, and I'm glad I have this meditation to spend time with.
Yeah. Any last tips that you can give to anyone out there just watching from your experience coming as a monk in Thailand? Any last words that can help improve their lives?
I would say 2 things. One is an activity that we must have in our life is meditation. So go learn it. If you don't have time to learn it, do it by your own way anyway. It's better to do it than to do it right, and eventually you do it right. Okay, so meditation is activity. The other part of the self for me is ask yourself, are you giving more than you are receiving?
Right.
If I'm always receiving, making money, getting things from people, and getting help from others, make another list and see, am I, at the end of the day, giving as much as I'm receiving? And if you're able to balance that, it starts to look at, are you more and more a generous and compassionate person? I think generosity and compassion is something that I need to learn how to do. Some people get it naturally. For me, it makes my heart softer. Does not mean it's weaker,
Right.
but it's just softer. And when my heart is softer, I realize I meditate better and my mind is purer. And so meditation is like taking a shower.
Yes.
If I take a shower every day, I have a clear mind. If I wait a week, it starts to smell. If I wait a bit longer and don't shower, I don't think any friends will come to me anymore.
Right.
And so I want to be able to shower my mind and clear my mind every day with meditation. I want to nurture the heart to be compassionate and generous so that I'm able to do more merits for other people. So that would be 2 things.
Awesome.
Compassionate, generosity, plus meditation.
Awesome. And then one last thing, a bonus thing for you guys out there. We were talking about this at lunch, but compassion and letting the heart soften a little bit, how is that a benefit? Because to our world, especially to men and in the business world as a CEO, there is no place for it. Why would I want to soften my heart a little bit? That's not strength. I don't know. What's your answer to that?
I, if there is one word that we ultimately want to be a better person, besides all the Buddhism, going to next life, everything, if there's one word when I'm in this world, is to have more love. And for me, to nurture love is to be able to be generous to people, to be compassionate to people, to look at someone with kindness. And so I do that because if we love more, there'll be less hatred, there'll be less problems. And when that happens, I think this will be a more peaceful place. So for me, at work, if I'm always striving for purely money and purely for punishment and giving bonus for someone who do it, without the sense of genuinely having the caringness for someone's well-being, which is love, I will not be able to run a company long term. People will quit, people will leave me. In terms of social relationship, if a relationship is about what I get from you, without the pure caringness, which I say is love and compassion, the relationship is, whether it's husband or wife or friends, will be very short term. So I think for me, in business, I need to include that in the way I think, in the way I act, in the kind of jobs I give people. I need to care for them. Whether I'm firing someone or I'm hiring someone, I need to be concerned about what happens after that. It's not just about paycheck and how much compensation I give for a retention benefit. It's how you feel for the person. And when you feel for a person, you think further. You think it creates changes in the company policy, in your rules, in everything. So it affects everything. But when the heart is not soft, it's not kind, it's not compassionate, your policy will be reflected as not kind, not soft, not everything.
It bleeds through everything.
It bleeds through everything. Your neighbors, your relationship with neighbors is the same, right? Whose wall is higher? Whose dog barks louder?
Right.
Right? So the kindness and the love comes in when you give more than you receive. And by giving more, you listen more. When you listen more, you understand more. When you understand more, you love. That's the way it has changed for me. It's weird to hear me talking about this. For those people who know me this, about 6 months ago, I wouldn't be talking about this. I would say pay for performance, give merit to someone who done a good job. Those who didn't, fire them. That's the way it is. But that's not how I want to live my life now.
Yeah, awesome. That was an amazing answer. And for me, it's really compassion is such a big piece. One of the things we learned in Thailand was how to make a good decision. When you make an honestly good decision, what's at stake is both parties win. If you win, and if I made a decision and I'm winning, Alex doesn't win, that's not a good decision. If Alex wins and I'm suffering, that's not a good decision. But a real good decision is when both people win, and what I find is with compassion and with love, everyone wins. That's it. That's how you make a good choice, and that's why it's so important, because it's not weak, it's not you're gonna lose something, but it's that in this situation, when I make a choice with kindness and compassion, both parties win and we both benefit from it.
And Nick, I have something that you just triggered. In addition to that, when I see someone winning and I lose, I mean, sometimes that happens. Instead of being jealous and envious, I now look at it as I'm rejoicing in their success. And by thinking that way, it helps me to celebrate someone's success, even at the expense of my current failure. It's a hard thing, but that's really love in its most true form. Even that situation, and envy and jealousy has no value to a person,
because it comes back to hurt you at the end anyways.
That's right. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Well, thank you guys for watching. Feel free to comment below, ask Alex or myself anything, and we will respond.